Welcome to the first episode of Earth Your While. This is a podcast where we talk about businesses becoming more sustainable. My name is Jack and I'm the founder at an organisation called Reusebox. And this is Ellie.
Yep, so I'm head of sustainability.
Head of sustainability at Reusebox.
I'm also Jack's sister.
Yeah, we were a one-take podcast on this, so we won't be editing that out. And this is the first episode of Earth Your While, so we're super excited. Today we're going to tell you guys about our story. And at Reusebox, we kind of accidentally created this company to get companies to reuse cardboard boxes. And really early on, we made a conscious decision to make this a truly sustainable organisation. So we thought it'd be great to share with you guys our story of how we did that, the trials and tribulations, and the misconceptions, because there's a lot of confusion about how to be truly sustainable. So yeah, should we get into it?
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so let's start with our backstory, shall we? So you're my sister.
Yep.
Yeah. And we grew up in a village in Lincolnshire, which was fun-ish. And our dad was self-employed. He ran a small business, and our mum was a stay-at-home mum. And that was our kind of upbringing, really. I think we grew up in a quite a sort of lower middle class background. We went to quite good grammar schools. I think the big thing I remember from our childhood really was just our dad and him running his small business. He was kind of like a self-employed one-man band. He'd been a salesman in the packaging industry years before, and then he started selling used boxes in the 90s, and then he ended up getting some buy-to-lets in like 2000, early 2000s, which wasn't a great idea in retrospect.
No.
After the recession. But yeah, the thing I can just remember is him running these businesses and running around with all the pressure and the stress, and always kind of a struggle around money. I think that's the main thing I can remember. Sometimes we had more money, sometimes we had less money, but I can always remember this kind of anxiety or stress or pressure or I mean, we never really ran out of money, but
no, but it was always like a very high stress environment, wasn't it? It wasn't, I don't think we had those role models growing up where your parents kind of went off to work and worked kind of 9 to 5. Which I suppose is less common now with more flexible working, but
so in a way they were ahead of their time.
But it was a lot more stressful, perhaps.
It didn't seem very healthy to me.
Yeah.
Looking back at it at the time, you don't think that. You just kind of think this is just normal.
I suppose running a small business is very stressful, isn't it? And there's lots of ups and downs of that. And I suppose when you have a young family, I guess there are a lot of struggles that we probably weren't aware of.
Yeah, I think that's true. Well, I'm not really sure where this kind of like anxiety or struggle for money came from, because I found out in recent years, having built a business with a team of people, I found out it's all about collaboration, a group effort. It's not about having the world on your shoulders. And I've also found out there isn't really any shortage of money out there, so there should never be this anxiety around money. It's just, how do you add value to people? Because when you add enough value, you get paid for it. That's your reward. But I think I learned a lot of lessons from his bad examples in a way. I don't want it to sound a bit harsh, but that's kind of how I think of it. Maybe be more mindful about it, because I think he got all this anxiety around, we've got to get this much money in, so we've got to be very tight with money, and spending money is a bad thing, and you got to try and push and screw the customers to get as much money out of them. And for me, I realised from his mistakes, it's probably the complete opposite, really.
I mean, I suppose we're both very careful with money. I mean, I know I am. And I think that's definitely come from growing up in that kind of environment. But yeah, I think it's
think it's funny how your kind of childhood shapes a lot of people, and I think the funny thing is, we've got this incredible purpose-driven life and mission now with Reusabox, and I think all of that came from him selling used boxes in like in the 1990s, and all of that really just came from he left his job as a salesman in a packaging company, and he wanted to sell packaging, and he couldn't afford, or he was too tight to manufacture packaging or to merchant it. So he ended up getting second-hand boxes for free from like someone on an industrial estate, a small business, and then reselling it to someone around the corner and making a couple £100 profit. And then he did that for 10 years, and it was just him basically for most of that time. And I think that's why there was always the struggle, because it was just him, and he didn't invest. And I think we've learned from those mistakes. But it's funny because that sort of helped shape our lives, I think.
Yeah, well, it did you specifically, didn't it?
Yeah. So shall I go into the Reusabox part of the story then? So how it all started was in the recession, so like 2008, 2009, I was like 15, 16. I was at school, and he was really badly affected, and he couldn't afford, to pay the bills or the heating or I remember just getting the shopping and stuff, the weekly shopping. So I started working with him. And we were selling like a lot of like white goods and stuff like that on Gumtree and eBay to make ends meet. And then I started helping him sell used boxes. And for me, that was like not a light bulb moment, but maybe a light bulb moment, because all of a sudden I could afford to. All of a sudden there was never any concern about getting money in. It was like it's easy.
You kind of worked out how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really make much money, but we'd never had any issues being able to afford stuff. So I was working with him. Then I started selling used boxes, and then for a couple of years, we could pay the bills. There was still all this stress and anxiety. And then I finished school, and I wanted to go to university, but I ended up staying for a year because I kind of wanted to help him. And he didn't force me to do this or make me stay, but I could kind of tell that he kind of needed it.
This is Dad, yeah?
My dad, yeah. So that's what I did for a year. And then eventually I just went to university anyway. And that was amazing because, when you go to university, I think there's this weird thing. There's this great thing where you get to kind of reinvent yourself. And I think it's a great thing. Everybody should go through that throughout their lives, probably multiple times. So for me, I was quite lonely in my childhood, and it wasn't terrible, but
oh really?
Yeah, kind of felt like that, and a lot of hard work and stuff. And then when I went to university, it was just great fun. I just made some great friends.
Yeah,
and luckily, because I learned how to make money before I went, I had more money than I needed. So that's pretty dangerous when you have that in a city and you have.
But you didn't actually complete your degree though, did you?
No. I did one day. I went on one day. I did computer science because I was trying to mess around with e-com and websites for the business for selling boxes. So I was like, I'll do computer science and then we'll have an amazing website. So I went there one day and everyone just seemed like losers in the lecture. and I was just really deflated. And I got like a few calls and texts in my first lecture, and I think we made like £800 profit. And then I was just like, eh.
So you were selling boxes whilst in your lecture?
Yeah. So I would sell them, and then my dad was back home in Newark, so he would sort of arrange the logistics and stuff, and we had a van, so he might deliver them or whatever. That was kind of.
And you thought that was more exciting than doing a degree? Yeah,
well, I'd been out the night before and met some great friends and had a great time, and then had like a really boring 3 hours, and then during that 3 hours I made some money, and I was like, I can go spend this tonight and have fun. So that's what I did then for like 4 years. I dropped out of uni, but I stayed living there, made some great friends, and I would say that was probably for the business, that was like a really poor time for like progress and innovation. because I was just like partying basically.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
suppose you were just kind of. You were so young, weren't you? You were just kind of
was like 19, 20.
playing at it, really.
Well, sometimes you can make like £3,000 and then,
I know.
it's a very messy weekend.
Yeah.
But it was wonderful. But I think whilst the business didn't progress much, it was really just me doing selling in a one-man band. But I progressed a lot. I think I grew massively as a person, and just thanks to having friends and building that kind of network, I think it's really important.
I suppose you'd grown up. Well, we both grew up in such a rural area that sometimes it helps to move to a city and just to meet new people and kind of.
I completely reinvented myself, and it was so much fun. So that's my childhood. What was it like from your side of the equation? Because I was thinking it's interesting with this. It's a bit different to other podcasts because we've kind of had a shared experience for a lot of our lives, but then you can hear like different perspectives. Yeah. So, and of course, you weren't helping me early on with Dad. So
no. Well, I'm a few years older than you. 5 to be precise. Yeah. So I suppose when you were doing all this with Dad, I had already gone to uni. I mean, I didn't really know what I wanted to do either. I don't think a lot of people know what they want to do, apart from a few fortunate people. So I went off to Sheffield to do a degree in English literature. I met some great people as well. Yeah. And then I dropped out after I feel like this is a running theme within our family.
Yeah, probably.
So I didn't last very long. And
this is separate to when I was in Sheffield. This was like a few years before. So our paths never crossed.
No.
Thank God.
No.
I feel like my friends wouldn't have got on with your friends. So.
Okay, thanks. But and then I came back home. I got a job for a bit. Didn't know what to do still, and I thought I kind of wanted to do something more vocational. Didn't really know what to do though, so I did a degree. I ended up doing a degree in planning and property development at Nottingham Trent University.
Sounds very corporate, Eleanor.
It does.
Sounds very suited and booted.
Yeah, so I was going to be a surveyor, and then I finished the degree. I did actually do this one, unlike you. Then I got ill. I wasn't very well for a bit, so I got diagnosed with epilepsy. So this was when I was about 21, 22 maybe. And I wasn't really doing anything for a while. And because it took a while to kind of get it under control. Because I was just kind of having seizures basically. And I think just that kind of, it just made me think that I wanted to do something with a bit of purpose. Yeah. I kind of felt like I wanted to help people, but I didn't really have any qualifications that enabled me to do that. Yeah. And then I suddenly thought, I could go and be a teacher, because you can go and do a PGCE when you've got a degree.
So did the epilepsy, did that go away then, or how did that?
It just kind of gradually got under control. I mean, I still have it. It's just something.
What did you think when you got diagnosed with epilepsy? Because I can remember, I think the first time you had a fit, because my bedroom was next to yours, and you were home for some reason. Maybe this is because you'd dropped out of uni or something. I don't know.
Who knows?
You weren't living at home, but you were home for a small amount of time.
Our paths crossed briefly.
Yeah, like ships that pass in the night. But yeah. So I remember hearing this like weird noise. It's like something like that, and like some shuffling. And I thought at first I woke up and I was like, "Is that an earthquake?" So I swear we used to have earthquakes when we were younger. Do you remember, like when we were younger, there'd be an earthquake every now and then? I've not had one of those for years.
Were you? I don't know.
No, I remember when we were younger. I swear there used to be more earthquakes in this country.
You get the odd one.
Yeah. I have not seen one for ages, or I've been asleep. Anyway,
so you thought it was an earthquake?
Well, no, but when you have an earthquake, I remember when I was little waking up and like the wardrobe would be shaking in your room or something, or my room. I can't remember.
Well, our rooms were next to each other, weren't they?
Yeah, and I remember this noise. It sounded like a person, like almost like a bit like a choking noise. But then I heard like the shaking. I thought, it was Eleanor's wardrobe shaking. So I don't know why. So then I had a look, but then you were like, yeah, I guess I didn't know you were having a fit, but that's what was happening. So I went and got mum and dad, and then we called an ambulance. I remember your eye. You know, when your eyes are like roll into the back of your head.
Yeah.
You know, when you're little and you do that thing.
Yeah.
I remember your eyes were doing that, and I was like, "This is weird."
Yeah.
And
No,
concerning.
It's not very nice to watch, really, is it? I mean, I don't remember that.
But what was that experience like? Because
well, I don't remember
so
that
weird.
specific moment.
If you have a fit, do you remember anything, or is it just your brain just loses that memory?
Well, because everybody's brain is different. Everybody who has epilepsy experiences.
What are you going to say? Everyone who has a brain?
No. Everybody who has epilepsy experiences seizures slightly differently, and it depends. Well, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I think it depends on the area of your brain where the seizure is coming from as well. So I have focal epilepsy.
Where's
so
that?
It's probably somewhere on the left side of my brain they think it's coming from. I also have them in my sleep. I have nocturnal epilepsy. That's why it was...
Yeah, this is when you were asleep.
Yeah, we didn't realise for a long time that I was having them.
Do you think you had it for a long time then and you just never... you wake up like...
No, I think I had a couple because it did wake me up. And I'd wake up with like blood on the pillow because I'd bite my tongue. And...
what did you think?
I think the first couple of times I didn't really realise, and then obviously it got worse. And it's a pretty horrible experience, to be honest. It felt like I was dying, to be honest. It was horrible.
It must be scary.
It's like you're choking on your tongue. And
I can remember when you'd have fits, and then even when you joined my user box and you come to work the next day, and then it would seem a bit like like for me, it would be like, oh, this is if I've been out partying for like 3 days. Yeah. You know, like your brain's really like quite
the drugs,
exhausted. And
the drugs, you get side effects from the drugs as well. So, I mean, I've been on them, over 10 years now, so I've probably got used to them. But I still get side effects. I can't really drink much alcohol. I have to be careful to get enough sleep. Like the biggest triggers for me and for most people with epilepsy are stress and tiredness. So I just kind of have to try and avoid those things, really.
So the world of business drugs seemed like a perfect option for you then.
Well, to be fair, I decided to do a PGCE, and I don't know why. In hindsight, that sounds ridiculous because teaching is actually a very stressful profession.
You don't know that, do you, when you're younger? I think the thing is, there's this thing, isn't there, where like everybody, when they're sort of like 18 to 30 or even a bit older, then most people, they seem to not know what to do, and then they get anxiety about what to do with your life. And oh my god, so and so does know what to do with their life for a year, and I haven't. And I've never had that because to me it was almost like I was kind of forced to take control of this problem with our family, and it never seemed like a bad thing, but it just seemed like, oh, we'll just do this, we'll just work this out. We'll just sell these, we'll make some money, and then that'll pay the bills, and then that'll be fine. And then it just kind of fell down a rabbit hole. But I never felt like this is what I'm going to do with my life. I don't feel like that now. But for me, it was like, I think it was a sense of purpose and a meaning. It's like, I think somehow that just eroded any anxiety around what I should be doing with my time or my life. But I never really met many people at all that don't have that as well. Most people I meet, that they're our kind of age, and they're just like, I don't know what to do. What shall I do?
I think it's really good to try lots of different things because you never know until you start doing them.
I think it's like marketing, like how we're like testing stuff at the moment. It's like split test. I feel like that's a cool way to look at
your 20s is a great time to experiment, isn't it? And people think, oh, I've got to decide straight away, but you haven't. You've got ages, so it doesn't matter. But so I did a PGCE, and then I got a job teaching, and I didn't tell them that I had epilepsy, which is probably because I would never. I mean, who's going to employ a teacher with epilepsy? I mean, it's not going to happen, is it? There's still a huge stigma around epilepsy. And
I suppose I couldn't.
Who wants their kids to be looked after by someone that has epilepsy? I mean, to be fair, right? It was controlled. I only had them during my sleep, so I made that decision to think it's highly unlikely it's ever going to happen. I had my driving license back. You can't drive if you're having seizures, but I was controlled by that stage. However, yeah, I probably should have told them, but you're never going to get a job. And I think that's why I'm pretty open about it now, because, I have, now that the boss is my brother, it's a lot easier for me to do that because you already know. And I think,
and also I never employed you. You just turned up one day and said, I'm joining Reusebox.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, there is a huge stigma around it. And I think, actually, 1 in 100 people have epilepsy. So
yeah.
you will know somebody who has it. If you have a business with more than 100 people in it, you've probably...
Do you think there's a lot of people out there that have it and they don't realise? They've had it for a long time.
No, I think they probably just don't tell their employers because there's still this stigma around it. And I think we need to talk about these things more. I think there needs to be more opportunities.
More podcasts about epilepsy.
Maybe, I don't know.
Is this something you think's is it under control for the rest of your life now, or do you think this is going to taint the rest of your life? Or is it like it doesn't have any worry, it's like, it's just something that's part of your life?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always worried. There's always going to be that worry. Like, when people say to me things like, I'm scared of spiders or something, I always kind of think, well, I'm really scared of having a seizure and dying.
Well, at least you have epilepsy.
No, it's not to like, to it's not a competition of who has the bigger worry, but
yeah,
it is like, it's always there in the background. It's always like that kind of monster lurking in the background thinking, is it going to happen? Yeah. But generally I think, it's good. I've kind of worked out how to manage it with my lifestyle at the moment, so hopefully that's fine. And I think as an employer, you're pretty supportive. So
well, I think some things, obviously, I started this company because I was helping my dad and my parents and my family, and then you came to the company because you wanted to, I guess, have a better quality of life.
Yeah,
even though the job was terrible when you joined and the company had no prospects.
Yeah, well, basically, I did teach for about 3 years, did some supply work as well, but basically, I found out it just took up my whole life. And I think because I have to be careful not to get too tired, I just found it so exhausting. You've got your teaching in the day and then you've got all your paperwork. It's quite stressful as well. Yeah. I was under so much stress because, you have to get your kids to a certain level and I couldn't do it. And I did have the occasional, it would get to like the holidays and I'd have a seizure because I'd be exhausted. And I just couldn't do it anymore. And I was just like, it's not worth it. And the problem with when you get into teaching, you get very pigeonholed. Yeah. So I didn't know what to do with myself. I think I was on supply at the time and you started this business. This was about 2016. And so I was kind of like, I think it was the holidays. You don't get paid on supply in the holidays. So I was like, oh, do you want any help, Jack, with your business? And you were like, no. Nope. You were just kind of doing it yourself, I think. And then I think eventually
you just turned up one day and started working. So
no, you were like, do you want to do some sales work and work on commission? And I'm not a salesperson. I think we all know that. So that didn't go very well. I wasn't very good at selling cardboard boxes. I think I sold somebody the wrong boxes actually. Yeah. Yeah. So oh dear. So I just kind of did a bit of everything really. I was doing your accounts. I was putting things on the website. We were, doing making a CRM system, weren't we? We were just doing all sorts of bit of marketing and social media. And
yeah, I think the magical thing that I noticed, and you can only see when you look back, is quite interesting to do a podcast episode on this, but sometimes you can connect the dots when you look back. And I feel like the way I started in business, like helping my dad, and then the way that you joined, which was about, having a less stressful life, kind of shaped the future of our company, because we had no idea how to build a company, but it gave us these concepts of how can we make a company more ethical. Yeah, and definitely. This company is about helping each other through problems. Yeah. And obviously, in retrospect, I didn't realise 10 years ago, whatever it was, 8 years ago, but in retrospect, you realise that's exactly what a great business is. It's a community.
So I remember really early on, I was like, I lived maybe an hour away at the time. So I was like, if I'm going to come in every day, I need to be starting. I can't start before 9:30 because I'm going to get too tired. And you were like, yeah, that's fine. So it's just about making those adjustments, isn't it? And we were doing that.
I think we completely unknowingly challenged the status quo.
Well, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I think, well, you'd hope you'd make adjustments for people, that need it. But yeah, I suppose that, and also that was around the time. So obviously, when you started, it was all very much just about buying and selling cardboard boxes, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was our mission at the time was pay the bills for the family, and then I went to Sheffield and developed as a person, and I left Sheffield, I could have stayed. I had a really great group of friends and stuff, but I was kind of like, I just had this feeling inside of me that I need to focus on building this business. And because we were storing the used boxes in a local shed on a farm to my mum and dad's house, which is how it all started, I had to move back there. So I moved back to my mum and dad's house and left all my friends. I was having a great time.
I know. I still can't understand why you did that.
I don't know why I did that, but I just had this feeling like, if we can do this, because I had a feeling I really liked the idea, the direction and the purpose the job gave me, and I liked my friends, and I had like a little community and stuff. But then they were like separate, and I guess I kind of felt like, well, I should be able to like merge them really. And of course, none of my friends wanted to sell used cardboard boxes for me. So
I don't know why.
So I had to build a new community. But yeah, I came back here and then just lived with my mum and dad, and I just worked like 20 hours a day. And then after about a year, you joined. Yeah. That's where your story intertwines.
I had no intention of just helping you to buy and sell cardboard boxes, if I'm completely honest. It didn't interest me whatsoever. Cardboard boxes are very boring products.
They will get you bored.
But I think it was around the time, this was 2016, 2017, like David Attenborough had released his Blue Planet series, and people were just starting to kind of think a bit more about the environment. People were starting to think plastic single-use plastic is really bad, and it's damaging our oceans. And it was just starting to like take a bit of momentum. And to be honest, I didn't have a lot of knowledge about it. I didn't know much about it, but I think, I wanted something with a purpose, and I started to look into it, and I started to think, this is interesting. And when I looked at what you were doing, you were buying a used box and you were reselling it, and I thought, this is actually like a reuse model. This is really great for the environment, because you're not having to recycle that box, you're keeping it in use for longer. And so I suppose,
and that's that kind of flash of insight that you had that shaped our destiny, really. I think the word you said earlier was purpose, and I think that's the thing. I think,
well, for me it was like, let's shout about how great this is for the environment. This isn't just a cheap box to pack your products in. This is like a way you can actually, a really easy, simple way that you can help the environment. And it's like, and then we thought, well, let's find out how much better, I think it was your idea, let's find out how much better it is to reuse a box rather than recycle a box or buy a new box. So we had this carbon footprint tool made. We worked with some environmental consultants and an academic at Lincoln University. And we were like, and even I was shocked, like when we got the the stats back, this is how much better it is to reuse. You save, like, when you reuse a ton of cardboard, you save 5 trees, half a ton of carbon, loads, like 21,000 litres of water, because there's so much water needed in the process.
I can remember the people that did it with us, they were amazed at the stats.
And it's just like, it's such a simple idea, and yet it's quite an old-fashioned thing, really, just reusing things.
It's very traditional, isn't it? I think that was amazing, because I accidentally set up a business basically with my dad, basically, and then I just took it and ran with it on my own. Then you joined, but then you worked out what we'd actually done was we'd actually created an environmental committee that could have a real positive impact, and it just, I don't know, it just kind of shaped our entire lives, I think.
Yeah, and it worked. We suddenly realised with where you were buying the boxes from suppliers, to them, this is better than recycling your boxes. And this opened up a whole new avenue as well. And it grew from there. And I think at a really early stage as well, I think I said to you, I think we should start planting trees. I think we could plant a tree for every order that we place. And this was early on, and you were like, no, don't do that. You're like, we can't afford that.
Basically, every conversation we have is, you're like, oh, we should do this. And I'm like, no. And then I come into work and then you've done it anyway.
No, it didn't happen for a while, to be fair. But
Yeah.
eventually we did start planting trees. And I think...
You're like chief rebel officer of the user box.
Yeah, maybe that can be my name. But, I just thought at the same time, we are promoting the use of cardboard packaging.
Yeah.
We've lost... I can't remember the stat now, but so many trees get cut down every year.
I actually quote this sometimes to people, so some people might want to fact check this, but what I've heard is the Earth has lost half of its trees, half of its forests.
So I think although planting trees isn't the answer, it's still really important that we start doing that, and that's...
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to save the world with getting companies to reuse boxes. But the solution is a sum of lots of parts, and circular economy, reuse, businesses working together and collaborating.
Yeah,
it's a big part of it. And I mean, I was reading the other day, and again, I'm not fact check this, but I was reading that the paper-based packaging industry, which is mainly cardboard boxes, last year was responsible for, I think, around about 3 billion trees being cut down. Because even like you always say, like even recycled cardboard boxes, they have to contain a proportion of virgin material.
Yeah, well, the problem is you can't recycle cardboard infinitely.
Yeah.
So, because each time the fibers get stretched, so to get around that, they end up adding a proportion of new pulp, which obviously comes from cutting down more trees.
Yeah, and also it's a global supply chain. They're cutting down trees in Europe and Southeast Asia, and they're shipping them across the world to paper mills. And then, like you said, it's so energy intensive. The process uses so much energy
and water.
And then we're always amazed because we go to people, especially suppliers, that want to join us and give us their used boxes, and we say, here's the story, all of that to turn this into basically the same thing again.
Yeah. A box into a box.
Yeah, and there are just in the UK, millions of cardboard boxes are being manufactured.
Yeah. I think there's
every week.
I think there's a very large, well-known cardboard box manufacturer and recycling company who I won't name, who say that they can recycle a box and get it back in and turn it back into another box within 14 days. Apparently, that's their claim. Yeah. And it's kind of like, well, that's great, but you don't need to do that, It can be reused. Like most boxes can be reused a few times,
And the other thing is, though, it's that collaboration thing. Like that big box manufacturer you're talking about, there's a massive place for them for businesses because lots of businesses need bespoke boxes. Yeah. You don't want airspace in boxes because that's bad for the environment as well. But also, there are millions of cardboard boxes being produced every week, which there is another business out there that could use them, and they would be perfect for them. And it's going to massively, as a society, it's going to massively reduce our impact. And those numbers, 3 billion trees a year at the moment, half of all the trees. I mean, the one of the answers to global warming really is just get the carbon out of the atmosphere, and trees do that naturally. There is a natural solution, right? Yeah.
Well, it's better to protect existing trees rather than to plant new ones, and that's what this model tries to promote, isn't it? Yeah, and I think obviously we continued to grow, didn't we? Just going back to what happened.
We digressed. So the story. So you came and you turned us into an environmental company. We got this amazing sense of purpose, and then the last sort of 4 or 5 years, it's really been that mission. And a lot of people listening and watching are probably going to be people that have built businesses, so they're going to understand that kind of mission that you're on around finding talented people, around looking after them, around giving them direction, investing in them, investing in a business. Because we've grown from, literally just getting a handful of used boxes for free and trying to sell them as like house moving packs on eBay to, what was it this year? Is it 1.8 million boxes we've reused so far just in the last 6 months?
No, not quite.
Okay.
I think last year we diverted about 1.6 million boxes to reuse, but I think this year we're on about 900,000 so far. Obviously, we're only partway through the year.
And we nearly turned over nearly £3 million last year, and we're a tiny, tiny, tiny company in the industry. But clearly, that kind of growth and that kind of demand shows there's a place for this. Businesses will collaborate and work together. And the wonderful thing is, when we are reusing a box, when we remove the manufacturing process, we're also removing a large part of the cost.
So how have you found growing the business? Because obviously it was just you, and maybe Dad helped you a bit in the beginning. Mm-hmm. Then I arrived, and then
you arrived and rocked the boat.
Yeah, but still, you are, you're like the CEO. So how have you found kind of becoming a leader and growing the business? Because it's not been easy, has it?
No. Well, the thing is, you have to learn by by getting over and through the problems. And again, there's probably lots of people listening that are growing businesses, and they would agree it's quite a lonely kind of place sometimes, where you're kind of locked in your own head and sort of going over the problems and how you can fix them, and there doesn't seem any way out, and then you get over them, and then there's a whole world of new problems. But the thing that I think has been that's really helped it and make it me more mindful and make it more of an academic exercise is that we made that conscious decision to have a purpose-driven company really early on. And for me, I think when it's not about profit obviously is our most important objective, because if we don't make profit, then the company's dead and everyone's out of a job. But you have to make profit. But when you have a purpose, and this is about something bigger than profit, bigger than yourself, it really lets you connect with people. It's I think a lot of business these days, it's very dehumanizing, or it has been. A lot of these big corporates that really run society, and they're dictated by shareholders and profit, and I think we took a completely different route, thanks to you.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't be here
unintentionally, but it happened.
If we weren't like that. And I think it's helped to attract employees to the company who are interested in that as well and want to share in that.
Well, that's purpose. The thing. You attract really great people, and when you have people and they're thinking about something else, something bigger than themselves, there's this crazy kind of electricity to the day and to attacking things. This massive sense of energy and positivity, and that's what makes it easy to get over the problems, because we're building a community around it, and it's really inspiring as well as a leader. And you realize you want to get better at a leader. You want to understand how to influence and motivate and help people, help them grow. I think it's quite a spiritual thing in some ways, building a company.
It's very exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is exciting. Exciting and full of headaches. But it's cool, and now that's going to step on, because now we've got opportunities to work with really great brands and organizations, and it's just as simple as telling them our story and telling them our purpose, and people are like, oh my god, why don't more people do this? What's it been like? Again, the interesting thing for me is hearing your perspective, because you've got a shared experience we have, but you're on a different side of it. So what's it been like for you the last, what's it been now, 5-6 years?
Yeah, I think it's been really interesting seeing this kind of shift in companies, which, when I joined, it was just beginning to happen, or definitely, or perhaps we just weren't working with the right companies. I don't know, or we were too small, or I don't really know what the reason was, but I've definitely seen a shift in the last few years to people,
especially the last 18 months.
Yeah, to businesses wanting to be more environmentally conscious and more kind of purpose driven. And I think it's really exciting, because I got to that stage where I was like, you know what, I don't want to work for a corporate. I don't want to just be making money. It doesn't going to work to make money doesn't actually get me out of bed in the morning. I mean, obviously everybody needs money. I need money. But I need something more than that personally. And I hope there's other people out there like that. And I think, it's just really exciting at the moment, because I know we're connecting with a lot of like-minded businesses that also feel like that. They've got their own purpose, and it's just been really exciting to see that grow, I suppose.
The thing that's amazing in the last 18 months is when we're speaking to, like you said, other like-minded people, and there's this sense of community around around companies reducing their impact. And a lot of companies out there aren't thinking like this. But it seems to be every day more and more are. And the thing is, like, if you're not doing it now, you will have to be thinking this way soon.
Yeah.
And
I suppose
it's a change in society, isn't it?
One of the challenges is working out how you're going to do that in your company. Because for us, we've got quite a kind of impact business model where what we do is good for the environment.
Yeah.
But not every business has that, and that's okay. Yeah. But it's working out how you can still, make your business sustainable and do the right things by people and planet, really.
Well, unfortunately, there's so much confusion. Communication. There's so much confusion, and there's such little legislation, and people they just don't know. I mean, the amount of people we speak to on a daily basis, and they go, "Well, we're doing our bit for the environment. We're recycling our boxes. Recycling is, recycling has an impact, and there is better ways." But I think the biggest challenge for people at the moment is just understanding, getting some clarity on what's good, what's bad, what could we do, and that's why they should listen to this podcast because we're going to give them advice. We've got some great guests coming on this season.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all we've got time for today. So I've had a really great time telling people our story, Eleanor. Anybody that's listening and watching, please keep following us for the rest of this series. We've got some amazing guests lined up. We've got like another 15 episodes, and we've got some really great stories of people that have built sustainable companies or people that can help transform your company to being more sustainable. So we can help you with this. So please keep watching.
So we've chosen not to monetize this podcast. It's completely sponsored by Reuse a Box. However, we've recently joined the Million Tree Pledge, and we've set ourselves the very ambitious target planting 1 million trees. If you'd like to help us reach this goal or find out some more information, head over to our website, reuseabox.co.uk.
It will be really worth your while.